Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. A little less than a year ago, I set out to change the world by changing the internet. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I know that it was going to be a long road, and I still have a long road ahead of me, but I wanted to share some of the accomplishments that we've made and what we have come up against in that less than a year's time. So one of the things that I was trying to change was this idea that companies like Facebook, companies like Google, companies like Twitter make billions of dollars a year off of when they have no content of their own. It's all created by the users, and the users get no compensation in any way. And so I wanted to change that. I wanted to make it so that that the people who made this possible got some sort of benefit out of it. And I'm an internet consultant. I consult for companies and have for the last 16 years. And I tried to get my clients to do this type of thing, but none of them could just dream big enough, I guess you would say. Some of them, you might say, they were too greedy. They didn't want to share their profits with people, whatever the reason was. And I just got tired of it and decided I'm going to do it myself. And like I said, it's been a long road. But we've done some amazing things. We've done some absolutely amazing things, and that's what I want to demonstrate to you in this video. I want to show you some of the things that we came up against and some of the things that we have changed in just this short time. Doesn't matter. Never let anybody stop you from your dream. So the first thing I want to show you is this right here. This is an example of how social networks have exploited celebrities. In the real world, celebrities won't hold a can of Coke unless Coca-Cola is paying them. They won't endorse anything unless they're being paid for it, because that's their brand. But they got duped into building Twitter and Facebook and all of these things for free, and they bring in huge amounts of money to these companies. And this particular celebrity is a very good indication of this. And notice that this is 6 years ago, almost to the day. 6 years ago. So it's not a new thing. But here we have 3% of Twitter servers are dedicated to Justin Bieber. Okay, 3% of the traffic that comes to Twitter comes from this one celebrity. If you take all the other celebrities and add it up, you see that they're using their brand to drive these companies and make them popular, even though they make nothing off of it. And it's just because they don't even realize what they're doing. And so when I came out, I said, this type of thing is not fair. This type of thing is not right, and this needs to be changed. And we're going to force these companies to start sharing their revenue, whether they want to or not. And how are we going to do that? By becoming so big that people start to wonder why they're not having the other companies are not doing it. Why are they not doing it when this company is doing it? And we don't have to get very big before that happens. That's what I said. It just takes enough people looking and going, hey, wait a minute. This isn't right. This isn't fair. So did it make a difference? Well, yes. Twitter now has announced, while it's not quite good enough for people like Justin Bieber, it'll still get there, but for the first time ever, Twitter is now going to share it's still a small percentage of people, it's just people in the United States, but it's a step in the right direction, because we're still small, but people are clearly listening to the words coming out of this mouth. So now Twitter will share the ad revenue, and a very large percentage of it, 70% of the ad revenue, with those who create videos to be shared on Twitter. They will share it with the video creator. Now that's a first step, okay? That's a first step. And I do also understand that a lot of these companies can't do what we're doing because they are publicly traded companies and their investors are never going to allow it. But to be able to say, well, we do share our revenue like she's saying, now they're saying it. Now they're pressured into saying it. Not only that, Facebook even stepped up and said that you can now make money on Facebook, okay? Because that was another thing. Well, that sounds really good, right? Oh, Facebook is finally sharing their billions of dollars with the people who make it possible. Well, no, they're not. But it sounds like that. You can now make money from Facebook. Well, how can you make money from Facebook? And this was announced by Facebook. How can you make money from Facebook? Well, they're giving you the ability to tip people. So if you like something that someone posts, you can now tip them through Facebook. This is what they're implementing. I don't know if they have it done yet or whatever. So while it sounds like they're finally doing what, I've been saying for years they need to do, they're not. The money comes out of your pocket. And by the time it's all said and done, I'm sure that Facebook's going to take their nice little fee off of that tip as well, in the same way that any other site that offers tips, the site gets a cut of it. So it's really just kind of looking like one thing but not. But the point is that people are listening where we are right now. Another thing that we have come up against is nobody wants to see us succeed. No one wants to see us succeed. The internet is fueled by advertising. Nobody wants to see us succeed. Nobody that's making that money wants to share it with the people that's helping generate it. So it's very important for them to make sure that we are not successful and to do everything that they can to make sure that we are not successful. Now, I'm an internet consultant, been consulting for 16 years. I've worked with hundreds of companies, and part of what I do is to get those sites on the first page of Google. And that's very easy for me to do. I can generally do that within the first 24 hours. And that's basically because of the name of the company and because I know what I'm doing. A lot of people can't do that, but I can do that. If you have a name that's very, very generic sounding, then it requires more work. But I noticed several years with certain clients who did try to do a little bit of kind of sharing that the search engines came in and attacked them. And you can research this type of thing, all the antitrust lawsuits against these companies where they're literally artificially pushing down sites that they feel threaten them, threaten their livelihood or competition to them. And there are lots and lots of lawsuits and have been for years against these big companies who don't play fair against their competition. So, and that's exactly what happened to us. I noticed it very early on when we launched our app. Because when you launch an app, you have your beta testers testing your app, but then once you go live into the stores, you also have your beta testers go in and put download it onto different devices, and try the real live version that's coming out of the store. So the first thing that I noticed that for several days, it said we had one download. Well, wouldn't one download be me? And what about all my staff? What about all of them? Not only that, but we had 4 reviews, even though I knew we had more than 4 reviews because people were sending me screenshots of them. And people were saying that theirs are not, showing up. And how do you have 4 reviews when the only way you can review an app is to download it? How can you have 4 reviews with only 1 download? So I was like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to do anything. We'll just let this play out, because everybody has their excuses. Oh, it takes a certain amount of time to update. That went on for a couple of months, okay? It's still going on today, okay? So I said, okay, I know what to do. So I submit my app. Me and my team, we submit our app to the media across the United States and to tons and tons of app companies. We submit it. Here's our app. Take a look at it. Tell us what you think. We got rave reviews. Absolutely awesome reviews. And in major publications, we won App of the Week on pre-apps for like 3 weeks in a row. Out of millions and millions of apps, we won App of the Week for 3 weeks in a row. Awesome reviews. There's not a single outlet in the United States, NBC, CBS, none of the major outlets didn't pick us up. They either wrote something about our app or picked up a press release and published it on their site. And I knew this because they were sending me the links. The different organizations were sending me the links, so I could go there, like this, for example, Entrepreneur Magazine, the world's biggest business magazine. And as you can see right here, your web base. And it's a glowing review, even though it's really small. This is reviewing 6 apps out of millions of apps. And this statement right here, this app is still in its nascent stage, but has the bearings to become big to its powerful idea. So it's saying money-saving apps that won't cost you a dime. And then we've got the Huffington Post, the world's largest news outlet. And here we are. Exactly the full name as it is in the store. Both of them have the links to the store. If you click it, you'll see it takes you right to the store. Google Play, and then the app. We'll come back to that in a second. While it loads, because I'm recording, it slows things down. So here again, awesome review. Second only to Google's very own app. You got to be politically correct. If you're going to list 6 of the best apps, you want to make sure that you put Google first. Even though this app has terrible reviews, they still own the store. So now the interesting thing about this, and just awesome rave reviews, okay? But things just aren't lining up with Google. We get people sending us reviews and they're not showing up on our site. Our only negative review, this one here, of the ones they are showing, was enough to bring our score down. A 4 and a 5 are both positive reviews. Some people won't give a 4 or 5 unless it's the very best app they've ever seen. It's like they'll never give out a 5. So a 3 and 4 are considered awesome, but we have this one, and this is what it says. I'm curious how come this app has so many good things said about it in famous networks. Yeah, exactly. So maybe you should be rating Google and not our app, not giving us a negative review, but giving Google a negative review, saying, how is it that all of these sites are just glowing about this app, yet it has so few downloads? And that's a very, very good question, because it's being manually pushed down. It's being manually not shown. And when you go to Google, if you go and do a search for a site, if you put in the name of the site and something about the site, it should come up on the first page. Now, if you put something generic like the word traffic exchange, well, there's a lot of those. If you put something generic, it might not necessarily come up. But when we were putting in your web base, get connected, Google Play, our app wasn't showing up anywhere. Now we're looking at 179 million results. But then we're looking at like 340. And if you went through every single one of them, you couldn't find you couldn't find anything about about our company. You couldn't find the Huffington Post article. You couldn't find the CBS articles or the NBC articles or the PBS articles. You couldn't, or the Miami Herald, the Boston Globe. You couldn't find any of them. Even when you added your web base, get connected app, and the name of the outlet, the most that came up was 349, but all of them were not about us. And you couldn't find any of the big ones, the glowing reviews that we were getting from these major app companies. Now, of course, you have this right here, calling it an MLM, because this company likes to draw traffic by making up lies about anything that looks like an MLM. Your web base is a free company and a free app, and it's not an MLM. But again, so now when we do a search, and even if I ran these words together, because I know you're probably thinking, well, your web base are three very generic keywords, and you're absolutely right. That's why what you're seeing right here is amazing, and I want to show you how I did that. But when I put in your web base, get connected, this is the name of the app, your web base, get connected, it didn't show up. When I put in this right here, which is the site where the app is hosted, it didn't show up. When I put in anything, the only way I could get this link right here was to go in my app and click share and share it with myself. I couldn't even get it no matter what. And a highly trained internet and search engine expert couldn't get the link to come up. Nor could I get Huffington Post, Entrepreneur Magazine, the Boston Herald, none of that. I had to literally, to get to those sites, I had to go to and I would have never even known they reviewed me had they not sent it to me. So that's when I got tired. And I said, I'm not going to play this game. This isn't fair. I'm not going to allow these companies to do this. So what I did was I launched a company called Just 10 Time. Just 10 Time was something I had in my arsenal from years ago. It was a product that I made for a client that has since gone out of business, and the product has not been used since they were in business. But since I created it, it belongs to me, and I can do with it whatever I want with it now that they've closed their doors, because they only licensed it to me. So I knew that I had made something years ago that could get a website on the first page of Google. How do I know? Because I did it, and did it for a lot of sites. So out of anger and frustration of fighting against this, I decided to launch that program. And it went into pre-launch on the 2nd of August. And pre-launch means there's not a lot of people in it, not a lot of people using it necessarily, especially this time of year, which is the slowest time of year. It's the worst possible time to launch a program. I went ahead and launched it when I would never ever do that because of this problem that we were having right here. Because in order to change the world, people need to know what we're doing. And even though all the media was singing our praises, the companies we were threatening a threat to were pushing us down. So when I launched the program, one of the things that I started showing people, pre-launch the program, I started showing people is how much we were raising the Alexa rankings of our clients' sites. Some of them 5 million places in less than a week. 100,000 places. Just really pushing these sites up. Now, one thing that I didn't tell them was what was happening to not only your web base, but any site connected to your web base, and this site right here, which is actually our programming team. This is where the app is hosted, and I want to show you what was happening with those. Instead of going up like so this is what we did. We took a bunch of test sites with the goal of driving them up in the search engine. Now, we didn't really expect much to happen in the pre-launch because, as I said, most people aren't really doing a lot this time of year. So we're like, okay, but we need to get ready, we need to get prepared, because even though it's still one of the slowest times of year, it's not the slowest time of the year, and it's really important that we do this. So we took a sampling of different sites and we put them in, and all of them started going up, except for ours. In the same ratio that the others were going up, ours were going down. Now that shouldn't have happened at all, because many of the people using the system were actually advertising this as well. So this site should have done better than all of them, but they were in fact going down, and I want to show that to you. So here we have not that. This was the original screenshot when we started. This is the original screenshot of when this site was added, and we did this for a bunch of different sites. So when the site was added, this was its Alexa ranking. And again, this is the site that hosts our online, our servers, essentially, for the app. And if we go over here and we click on here, we will see that it's gone down over 100,000 places. We're talking negative SEO being done on these sites. This shouldn't ever happen for an active site, not in a month. And then we look at your web base. The same thing happening. Let me find that one for you. So these sites that should be going up faster than all the other sites in our test group are going the other direction. This is what it started out at. This is where it's going. This is where it is right now. So somebody said to me, a client said, Alexa doesn't really mean anything. Well, this is true, but it's an indicator. If your site starts going up 1 million places or 100,000 places or 10,000 places in a month, that's an indicator that what you're doing for SEO is actually helping. It is true that, it's not a big indication of a lot, because when we ran the script before, we had websites all over the first page of Google for anything that had anything to do with what those sites were doing, and many of their sites their rankings in Alexa weren't even over 3 million, which is a lot higher, a lot lower than this. So in that case, it's true that it doesn't matter, okay? Unless you're being pushed down like we are, then of course that does matter. That makes us mad. This type of thing does matter. It proves that these companies are deliberately doing what I've known they've been doing for day one. So another thing is, if you check the Google ranking on your site versus the Alexa ranking on your site, you'll get two vastly different numbers. If it's your rank in the world, that number should be exactly the same on both sites. But it never is. And again, that's because this data's kind of bogus. But like I said, it can be an indicator. It can be an indicator. Now, despite what they're doing to these two sites, did it make a difference? In the month of pre-launch, while we have, over 5,000 members, which is a very small amount of people in the grand scheme of things, most of them are not doing anything. Most of them are on vacation. Most of them getting ready to get their kids back to school, getting them settled back in school. It's just a very, very slow time of year. So not many people are using the site, and that's what makes this so amazing. Because for us to be on number one right here for your web-based run together, because that's our domain name, right? So of course that's going to come up. But before it didn't, okay? This is amazing because these are 3 generic keywords and some of the most popular keywords that there are. It's like, that's why the Alexa ranking doesn't necessarily matter so much, except as being an indicator. Okay, it is going up or it is going down. As an indicator, going down drastically means negative SEO is being done to you. Going up means positive SEO is being done to you, or you're doing it yourself or whatever. But the reason it doesn't matter is because you don't have to be better than every website in the world. You have to just be better than every website in your genre. For example, if you're a social network, you don't need to have a higher ranking than a dog breeding website. There could be a dog breeding website that has a higher ranking than your social network. It doesn't matter, because when people are doing a search, the dog breeding site will not come up. So this shows the power of what your what Just Ten Time can do for a site. Even though you can clearly see negative SEO being done on this site, these sites. It is now number 1 with just the pre-launch in Google. And now finally, our app shows up. And this is the very first time that this has happened, that it shows up. And like I said, it didn't show up if you put in your web-based get connected, which is about as specific as you can get. If you just put in your web-based get connected Google Play, it didn't show up. So now, with what are essentially 3 of the most generic keywords that exist, it's number 1. Even though everything is fighting against it. Everything out there is fighting against it. There it is. And not just one thing about our site. Even though this is a bunch of BS lies, this is actually about our site too. Where before it was all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with us. But like I said, I understand that. That's fine because those are 3 generic words. What I had a problem with was when you put the name of our app, when you put the name of our company specifically. This is the way search engines work. It wasn't coming up. But now, as you can see, everything on this page is about us for the 3 most generic keywords. Not the most, I'm sure there's other more generic, but you cannot argue that the word your is a very generic keyword. The word web is probably the most generic keyword, and base, as in database, as in, it's a very, very, very generic word. And we are number 1. We dominate the entire page, all because, with everything going against us, all because of the work from the program Just in Time. Just in Time will get you to the top of the search engines. There's nothing more powerful. There's nothing less expensive, because you can use it for free. But even if you're some business and you're like, well, we don't do those types of things, we don't do our own SEO, they can still buy it far cheaper than anything else out there. They can still pay to do it far cheaper than anything else out there. So as you can see, this is proof that nothing works like Just in Time. And no matter how big your enemy is, never give up, because you can still win. Thanks. Have a great day.